got to get my Gilson going. Need some air in that tire, so I'll show you the rest of the plan here in a moment. If your plug's too short to reach, this is how you do it. Alright, now you can see what the whole point of all of this is. This is my old water tank, and it's still full of water. And here's my new one that I just got. Took it down to the car wash this morning and blasted it all out, made it nice and clean inside. And there's my gravity-fed water tank. What I did was I pumped the water out of this one into that upper tank. And, well, this tank used to get filled from the east trough here. And that's going to stay there, and it's going to just add water to this all the time whenever it rains now. And the way my gravity tank works is that you have about 150-200 pounds of water up there, which is just roped up to a tree via a couple old tire irons, and that would just force the water into the trailer like that, and that was enough to, you know, get a little bit out of the taps and to fill the toilet after it was flushed and stuff like that. But the problem I was having is once it got about halfway, it stopped working. It didn't really want to do much anymore. So there is an air nipple on it, and I was going to pressurize it, but that's just more hassle, and then every time I got to fill it up, I got to repressurize it. It's just a pain in the ass. So I did get a automatic on and off diaphragm pump. So that's going to be hooked up to this bin here, and the spout will be down here, and then the inlet to the trailer is right over there. So here's the piece that I made for it. This screws onto the tank, and then that's where the hose to the trailer is going to go. So let me get set up and I'll show you. This lid is going to remain on the tank to keep any shit and debris out. But this fill hose, I'm going to have to shorten it, obviously now, but it's just going to be in there, just as it always worked. So my epoxy on there should be just about done drying. I think I just should have used the yellow ABS crap, because this is taking too fucking long. But anyways, once I get that on, I can start, I can put the pump on this tank and start pumping the water into my new tank. And in the meantime, that gives me time to pull all this down, drain the water out of that tank into here, and start getting the plumbing done and hooking up the pump properly. Okay, so that tank is down from the ropes. Cool. And got that much water in there so far. Now the bottom of the tank's got rust stains on it from the steel cage, so that's why it kind of looks yellow, but it actually is pretty clear. Anyways, look at where the spout is. Not even enough to fill it up yet. That's how much water's in there, and that's how much this tank holds. So now to get the pump and fill this fucker up. Alright, I'm done with my Volkswagen now. I was using it for power for my pump right now, and I've drained this tank completely and that tank completely, and that got me that much, so about 120 liters roughly. Got my homemade spout on there ready to go. So now the pump's going to hook up from here. Pump will sit up underneath the trailer so it stays dry, and then there's the inlet for the trailer water. And now I have to run down to the barn. This actually plugs into this pressure switch in the front, and another one, that's where your main power will go in, and then ground just hooks to ground. And I'll show you how I'm going to wire all this up. It's going to be running off the 12-volt battery that I have wired up to the trailer that charges off a solar panel. But I did notice the pump was getting a little wet here when I kinked the hose and pressurized it. So if you look at the manufacture date here, it was manufactured in December of 1991. So it's an old pump, and it's probably never been, you know, cleaned inside or had the seals redone or anything like that. So I'm going to go down to the barn now, get some Teflon tape for my pressure side out. The inlet is fine, it's not leaking, but this side might under pressure. So I'm going to Teflon tape these fittings and grab a screwdriver. I'll come back up here, strip the pump down, clean it all out, and see what kind of condition the seals are in, see if I have to replace them or if I can save them the way they are. Because this is an aluminum body, it's probably just corrosion has set in and made the seal not sit perfectly, so I'll probably just have to wire wheel it and it'll be fine. So we'll get ahead doing that and finish hooking all this up. Okay, now that I got it all apart, this is the pump. Look at all the dirt and crap in here. And look at the dirt on, this is where it makes it seal really. I can just scrape it off and it's just nasty. So this needs to be all cleaned up real well because you see this is the diaphragm pump here and this is what this sits in there. And, or sorry, this part sits here and then this sits on top of it like that, and that's where the leak was. So this is all just old sediment, rust, you know, rust debris basically, or rust stain, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, the leak was here and here a little bit, so basically this just needs to be cleaned off real well and kind of clean this shit out and get it all back together, clean the bearing, and this is the part that wobbles. Basically when the motor's spinning, it wobbles like this and pumps these diaphragms, and that's what sucks the water in and then pushes it out. So there's the out spurt. The shut-off switch valve is right there. That's what I'm pushing on in the center, and it feels good, feels like it works nicely, so we'll check it all out once we get it all back together. If I need to fix that or clean it out at all, that's just 3 little screws on the front, so I don't have to take it all apart again. Alright, we'll keep you posted. Alright, so now I've cleaned off all the most important contact points, nice and clean. Just kind of wiped everything else off, and now it's time for reassembly. Okay, so only about 4 minutes later, and maybe 5 minutes, and we're fully reassembled again. I've got everything Teflon taped. One thing I didn't show you guys is that there was a screw that holds one of the diaphragms inside the pump itself, and it wasn't in there when I took the pump apart. It was actually sitting down in the bottom here by the motor, and that's not good. So the threads inside, the little rubbery plastic crap, were no good anymore. So I wrapped a little bit of Teflon tape around the screw and also used some of this ABS solvent cement, and then put the screw in gently, you know, relatively tight, and now we'll just let it dry for a while, and I think that should do the trick. Now we're basically ready to take all this out back and hook up the rest of the system. Well, there we go. Pump's on, but it's off. So it does work. There's no more leaks around the pump anymore. It does look like I just got to tighten this clamp up just a little bit. Yeah, it's just a little bit by the hose here, so I got to tighten this clamp up a little more. Just a wee tiny drip. And right here is dry, all the rest of it's all dry. So that's good. There's my inlet. It's nice and dry, and it goes to the tank here. And when I was hooking this hose up, I kind of disturbed this a little bit too much, and my bond didn't work that well. So I'm just going to close this valve right here, and then turn a tap on inside so I can get the pump going again. Start sucking up the water that's left in this little portion here, and I'll pull this out and shove some paper towel in there to absorb the water a little bit so it gets below the hole, and I'm actually going to use the epoxy instead, and that'll give me a for sure bond. The reason why this stuff didn't work so well is because this gray spout isn't PVC, so it didn't like melt the two plastics together like it's supposed to. So no big deal, easy fix. Alrighty, now my epoxy's on there, and it'll be about an hour before it sets good enough where I can turn the water on again, but this time it'll be perfect, so awesome. Alrighty, and now the last part is now done. The fill hose. Perfect. Now I will continue to collect. Sweet. Water's a hard thing to keep going up here, especially since we're all self-contained. Only Graham and Bloke had water working properly before, and now I'm the third. So let's see who else can carry on in our footsteps.